I love Forsaken, a game with absolutely no bugs, no balancing issues, and a completely friendly player base. In all honesty, though, I love Forsaken, community and all. Although sometimes the devs make a few weird decisions. Here are my thoughts on the new buffs and debuffs for every survivor and killer, starting with the survivors. Noob. Noob's abilities are now no longer limited use. Good. I never understood why they were in the first place, so this is a really good buff for Noob. They also made his Bloxy Cola cooldown longer, which makes sense considering it's no longer limited, so if it was the same, it would be impossible to catch up with him. Overall, really solid change. Elliot. Elliot's entire kit got changed in this update. His pizza now heals 15 damage up front, and the rest of the damage over time. I think this is a good change. It gives the killer a chance to outdamage the heals instead of Elliot just getting in there and getting out, the survivor instantly getting back to health. The second buff, although... Elliot's Rush Hour now gives slowness 1 after the speed 3. I feel like this didn't need to be nerfed, as Rush Hour was already a single-use move, and I had no issues with his Rush Hour in my personal experience, considering he already has the lowest HP out of any survivor, excluding 2-time enchants on technicality. Builderman. Builderman's sentries now give XP when destroyed for the damage they deal to the killer. Neat. Same with dispensers, giving XP for health heal. It's a harmless buff to help Builderman mains get milestone 4. Guess 1337. Guest's hitbox now get way bigger when blocking. Really, a good change and buff for Guest 1337. My biggest problem with Guest 1337 was the killer missing their attack when I blocked, which I know a lot of players also had this issue too, so I see this as a really good update. His charge's cooldown was also reduced from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. Not a huge buff, but a valid one nonetheless. 2-time. His stun duration was decreased from 4 seconds to 3.5 seconds. I feel like this is more reasonable, as 4 seconds was the longest stun in the game before. Although, I don't agree with the second change, bringing the helpless duration from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. This hardly even gives the 2-time room to flee after stabbing. I get this was to make front stabbing less rewarding, but now it's just entirely useless. His crouch stab cooldown also has more end lag, which I can get behind, as it makes sense considering how far he moves, as it can no longer be used as mobility either. Taff. Health increased from 90 to 100. Nice. Now, we're on to the killers. Strap in, because this is where I really get heated. Cool Kid. Cool Kid's walk speed override was given a 0.55 second lineup. This sounds like a good nerf on paper, until you realize this gives the Cool Kid more time to aim their attack, making it harder to juke. This is a direct and needed buff to Guest 1337 and all though, but this makes it a lot harder for other survivors to deal with that don't have his block, excluding very particular situations, like when running up the narrow stairs on Underground War and having the distance advantage. But not only this, but you've added another 5 damage to an already 40 damage move? That's 45 damage from an attack that lunges at you across the map. They changed it again once more. Now the lunge itself. Now it goes 1.5 times faster, and lasts just that shorter. This is a buff, again, because now it's harder to dodge, but is less punishing to miss, because he goes the same distance, but takes less time. He also has a very high knockback, which you'd think would be the silver lining, but the survivor that is hit by it is also slowed by the attack to compensate for the knockback, as if Cool Kid needed that. I don't really like this buff, as I feel Cool Kid was already one of, if not the strongest killer. John Doe. Don't even get me started. John Doe is, well, unstoppable, as his passive implies. John Doe can only be stunned for roughly 2 seconds, and gets speed after he's stunned to compensate for being the slowest killer. Studs hardly work on him. He's slow and bulky, leaving survivors little room for mishaps for their demise to occur, but much room for them to succeed. All that changes with his nerf. John Doe's unstoppable passive now only applies when the animation of Corrupt Energy or Air 404 is cancelled. Why? The entire point was to compensate for John Doe being the slowest killer, and to make him feel like a beast that was, well, unstoppable or indomitable, as it chased you down and viciously slashed you in order to achieve its ultimate goal. But now, it feels like a joke. People have even developed 404 parrying to make his passive somewhat useful, but now, it might as well not exist. I get that this was to nerf John Doe, but I feel like even before this, he wasn't OP. In fact, I felt like he needed a buff. In my opinion, It's almost as if John Doe is now the single worst killer, period. This is coming from a John Doe man. But yeah, he has his uses. But now, I feel like he's outclassed by the likes of Cool Kid, 1x1x1x1, and Jason. But there are still some silver linings in this nerf. As for now, every Sentinel class survivor who's currently alive, the speed buff from Unstoppable is increased by 1 second. So if you can pull off this technique, you can end up with the survivor being absolutely wiped. But since the timing is so tight, if you fail the prediction, you are left unable to act for 4 seconds. It's like a guest block for killers, but even more risky and even more unrewarding. Thanks for listening to my rant. I made this at 1 a.m., so please don't mind any wrong information. This is mostly just off my chest here. I've been Askew, professional rat, thanks for listening. Also, buff Shedletsky, please, Forsaken devs.